Black in America, and my long-term friend, Roland Martin. I believe that a change is going to come because many of us are committed to changing how we see others who are different. In the past, we were taught to see others who are different as somehow being deficient. Christians saw Jews as being deficient. Catholics saw Protestants as being deficient. Presbyterians saw Pentecostals as being deficient. Folk who like to holler in worship saw folk who like to be quiet as deficient, and vice versa. Whites saw blacks as being deficient. It was none other than Rudyard Kipling who saw the white man's burden as a mandate to lift brown, black, yellow people up to the level of white people, as if whites were the norm and black, brown, and yellow people were abnormal subspecies on a lower level or deficient. Europeans saw Africans as deficient. Lovers of George Friedrich Handel and Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart saw lovers of B.B. King and Frankie Beverly and Mays as deficient. Lovers of Marian Anderson saw lovers of Lady Day and Anita Baker as deficient. Lovers of European cantatas, comfort ye, and the glory of the Lord. Lovers of European cantatas saw lovers of common meter. I love the Lord. He heard my cry. They saw them as deficient. In the past, we were taught to see others who are different as being deficient. We established arbitrary norms and then determined that anybody not like us was abnormal. But a change is coming because we no longer see others who are different as being deficient. We just see them as different. Over the past 50 years, thanks to the scholarship of dozens of experts in many different disciplines, we have come to see just how skewed, prejudiced, and dangerous our miseducation has been. Miseducation, incidentally, is not a Jeremiah Wright term. It is a word coined by Dr. Carter G. Woodson over 80 years ago. Sounds like he talked hate speech, doesn't it? Now analyze that. Two brilliant scholars and two beautiful sisters, both of whom hail from Detroit in the fields of education and linguistics. Dr. Janice Hale, right here at Wayne State University, founder of the Institute for the Study of the African American Child, and Dr. Geneva Smitherman, formerly of Wayne State University, now at Michigan State University in Lansing. Your neighbors say different does not mean deficient. It simply means different. In fact, Dr. Janice Hale was the first writer whom I read who used that phrase. Different does not mean deficient. Difference is not synonymous with deficiency. It was in Dr. Hale's first book, Black Children, Their Roots, Culture, and Learning Styles. Is Dr. Hale here tonight? We owe her a debt of gratitude. Dr. Hale showed us that in comparing African American children and European American children in the field of education, we were comparing apples and rocks. African and African American children have a different way of learning. They are right brain, subject oriented in their learning styles. Right brain, that means creative and intuitive. Subject-oriented means they learn not from an object, but from a subject. They learn from a person. Some of you all are old enough, I see your hair color, to remember when the NAACP won that tremendous desegregation case back in 1954. And when the schools were desegregated, they were never integrated. When they were desegregated in Philadelphia, several of the white teachers in my school freaked out. Why? Because black kids wouldn't stay in their place. Over there, behind the desk, black kids climbed up all on them. Because they learned from a subject, not from an object. Tell me a story. They have a different way of learning. Those same children who have difficulty reading from an object and who are labeled EMH, TMH, and ADD, those children can say every word from every song on every hip-hop radio station, half of whose words the average adult here tonight cannot understand. Why? Because they come from a right-brain, creative, oral culture like the griots in Africa, who can go for 2 to 3 days as oral repositories of a people's history, and like the oral tradition which passed down the first 5 books in our Jewish Bible, our Christian Bible, our Hebrew Bible, long before there was a written Hebrew script or alphabet, who could memorize and repeat incredulously long passages like Psalm 119, using mnemonic devices in 8-line stanzas, each stanza starting with a different letter of the alphabet. That is a different way of learning. It is not deficient, it is just different. Somebody say different. I believe that a change is going to come because many of us are committed to changing how we see other people who are different. What Dr. Janice Hale did in the field of education, Dr. Geneva Smitherman did in the field of linguistics. Almost 25 years ago now, Dr. Smitherman's book, published by Wayne State University, Talking and Testifying, the Language of Black America, taught us the same thing. Different does not mean deficient. Linguists had known since the mid-20th century that, number one, nobody in Detroit, with the exception of citizens born and raised in the United Kingdom, nobody in Detroit speaks English. We all speak different varieties of American. And if you don't believe me, just go to the United Kingdom. And as soon as you open your mouth in the United Kingdom, they'll say, oh, you're from America, because they hear you speaking American. Linguists knew that nobody in here speaks English, but only black children 50 years ago were singled out as speaking bad English. In the 1961s, it's been all over the internet now, John Kennedy could stand at the inauguration in January and say, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask rather what you can do for your country." How do you spell ask? Nobody ever said to John Kennedy, "That's not English, ask." What's ask? Only to a black child was it said, "You speak bad English." Kennedy got killed. Johnson stepped up to the podium in Love Field. We just left Love Field. And Johnson said, "My fellow Americans." How do you spell fellow? How do you spell American? Nobody says to Johnson, "You speak bad English." Ed Kennedy today, those of you in the Congress, Sister Kilpatrick, you know Ed Kennedy today cannot pronounce cluster consonants. Very few people from Boston can. They pronounce P-A-R-K, park, like it's P-O-C-K. Where did you park the car? They pronounce F-O-R-T, fort, like it's F-O-U-G-H-T, fought. We fought a good battle. And nobody says to a Kennedy, "You speak bad English." Only to a black child was that said. Linguists knew that 50 years ago, and they also knew, number two, that every language, including the language of Jesus, Aramaic, was made up of 5 subsets: pragmatics, grammar, syntax, semantics, and phonics, and that African speakers of English and African speakers of French and African speakers of Portuguese and African speakers of Spanish in the New World had created languages, not dialects, all with 5 different subsets. Languages, not Creole or patois, languages. And Dr. Smitherman compiled the findings of an interdisciplinary research along with her own brilliant findings to show us that the language of black Americans was different, not deficient. She combined the findings of early childhood education, linguistics, sociolinguistics, and the pedagogy of the oppressed to demonstrate most powerfully that different does not mean deficient. It simply means what? Different. I believe a change is going to come because many of us are committed to changing the way we see others who are different. What Dr. Janice Hale did in the field of education and what Dr. Geneva Smitherman did in the field of linguistics, Dr. Elkin Sitoli did in the field of ethnomusicology, the field of music. He showed us 40 years ago what Whitney Phipps is teaching some of you for the first time 40 years later. African music is different from European music. It is not deficient, it is different. In most school systems still today, the way most of us over 40 years of age were taught is still being taught. We were taught a European paradigm as if Europe had the only music that there was in the world. As a matter of fact, if you just say the term classical music, today, most hearers of that term will automatically refer to Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, Liszt, and already cited Mozart and Handel, European musicians. From grammar school through graduate school, we are taught in 4/4 time that the dominant beat is on 1 and 3. Our band directors, our choir directors, our orchestra directors start us off how? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Now that is the European dominant beat. For Africans and African Americans, it is not 1 and 3, it is 2 and 4. I don't even have to teach you. Y'all just listen to black people clap to this song. Glory, glory, hallelujah. You are clapping on beats 2 and 4. If you got some white friends, they'll be clapping like this, y'all. You say they can't clap? Yes, they can. They clap in a different way. The same fact holds true with 6/8 time. Europeans stress 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Dum, 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 dum. Dum, 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 dum. The stress is on 1 and 4, not for black people. When you got 6/8 time, blacks stress 2, 3, and 5, 6. Listen to this. Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, what a foretaste. Why y'all clapping on the wrong beat? You're not clapping on the wrong beat. Africans have a different meter, and Africans have a different tonality. European music is diatonic, 7 tones. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That's Italian, Europe. In West Africa and South Africa, it is not diatonic with 7 tones. It is pentatonic with 5 tones. Whitney Phipps points out that if you want to know black music, just look at the black keys on the piano. Do, re, fa, sol, la, do, re, fa, sol, la. Just those 5 tunes. Those are the only 5 notes you'll hear. And somebody knows the trouble I've seen. It only uses 5 notes. The same with Deep River. It also uses 5 notes. That's all. I believe a change is coming. It's not deficient, it's just different. Many of us are committed to changing how we see others who are different. When you look at and listen to, I'm in Michigan, okay? Here in Michigan, look at and listen to the University of Michigan and Michigan State University bands at halftime. Their bands hit the field with excellent European precision. Dun, 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 da, 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 da. Now go to a Florida A&M and Grambling band. It's different. And you can't put that in no book. I believe change is going to come because many of us are committed to changing how we see others who are different. Many of us are committed to changing how we see others who are different, number one. And many of us are committed to changing how we see ourselves, number two. Not inferior to or superior to, just different from others. Embracing our own histories, embracing our own cultures, embracing our own languages as we embrace others who are also made in the image of God. That has been the credo of the NAACP for 99 years. When we see ourselves as members of the human race, I believe a change is on the way. When we see ourselves as people of faith who share this planet with people of other faiths, I believe a change is on the way. Many of us are committed to changing how we see others who are different, number one. Many of us are committed to changing how we see ourselves, not stepchildren, number two, but God's children. Many of us are committed to changing, number three, the way we treat each other. The way black men treat black women. The way black parents treat black children. The way black youth treat black elders. And the way black elders treat black youth. We are committed to changing the way we treat each other. The way the so-called haves and have-mores, to use Bush's speechwriter's term. Don't y'all think he made that up? Come on now. The way the haves and the have-mores treat the have-nots. The way the educated treat the uneducated. The way those with degrees treat those who never made it through high school. The way those of us who never got caught treat those of us who are incarcerated, making rehabilitation a priority over incarceration. We are committed to changing the way we treat each other, the way we treat the latest immigrants, because everybody in here who's not an Indian do be an immigrant. Some of y'all came on the decks of the ship, and some of us came in the bows and the holds of the ship, but we all are immigrants. The way we treat